Hello there, I'm Beverly Payne and this is Payne and Simple Makes. I'm off for a few days this week and the weather is gorgeous. It's springtime here in western North Carolina, and so to honor this springtime weather that we're having, I decided to make one of my favorite things, and that's paper flowers using cardstock. And so I created 3 SVG files, 3 flowers like these. They're in my Maker library. And so I'm going to show you in this tutorial how to actually cut these out and put them together. And then a little bit later on, we'll do a project with these layered flowers. There's lots of different types of flowers. This is some of the simple ones. So if you're new to making paper flowers, this is a good place to start. We'll get into some of those giant flowers and the rolled flowers a little bit later on, but this is just a basic tutorial for creating simple layered flowers. So let's get started. If you like this tutorial, please click like and subscribe below, and for more projects please go on over to beverlypayne.com and you can look at all of my projects there. Alrighty then, let's make some layered flowers. So the first thing you want to do is to download the 3 layered flower SVG file that I created for you. It's in my Maker library. If you've not done that already, go to beverlypayne.com, click on Maker library, put in your password, and then download the 3 layered flower SVG file. If you don't have access to my Maker library, just fill out the form that you'll see on my website, and the password will be emailed to you, and you can then download any of the files in the Maker library. So once you have that done, you want to open Cricut Design Space, choose New. We want to start a new project, and then choose Upload so that we can upload those SVG files, or that SVG file. So you're going to upload. You can either drag or drop, or you can browse. I'm going to browse. There's my folder. There's the SVG file. I'm going to open. It's going to come in. It'll look like this. There's my name, 3 layered flowers. I can put tags if I want. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to click Upload. And the file comes in, and I'm going to click on it here and insert images, and it's going to put it on my canvas. When it comes into Design Space, it is all grouped together. All 3 of them are grouped together, so you may want to ungroup. Once you ungroup the 3, you'll notice that each flower is grouped separately. Here's the pink down here. So you can ungroup those if you'd like. But before you do that, you probably want to check the size and see if you want to resize, either make something larger or smaller. There's 2 ways of doing that. You can either use these arrows down here in the lower right hand corner, like I'm doing here with this purple flower, or you can make the change here in your menu bar. And you just type it in. If you make sure the lock is locked, so that it'll keep it proportionate. And the reason you want to keep it grouped while doing this is so that each layer actually increases or decreases proportionately. If you ungroup it, then you're going to have to do each layer, and sometimes that can get tricky trying to make sure that they stay in proportion. So I would do that before ungrouping. Now, you may be okay with the colors that I've chosen, and that's great, and you may not, and you may want to change the colors. Maybe you don't like this yellow, you want to go with an orange or something. You should do that by all means. Just click on it, and then you can change the color over here. So let's say that I wanted to make this a red flower, so I could do that if I liked. So I'm going to change that back. So once you have everything the right size and the right color, then you can click Make It up here in the right hand corner. Design Space is going to sort the project into mats depending on the colors, And it's going to use 8 mats just to make the flowers with all the layers and colors that I've chosen. And if you change colors, you may have more or fewer mats. It just depends. The other thing you may want to think about now is how many of each of these flowers do I want. If you want more than one, you probably need to go ahead and change that. So let's say I wanted 4 altogether of each one. I'm going to type in 4, click apply, and I still have 8 mats. But notice that I have to be really conscious about what size paper I'm using. If I don't have 12 by 12 paper, I'm going to run into a problem here. So maybe my paper is 8.5 by 11, so I'm going to change that over here. And that also changes the number of mats that I'm going to have to cut, because I can't get as many flowers on 8.5 by 11 as I can 12 by 12. So just be cognizant of that as you go through this process. So down here in the lower right hand corner, click continue, and it connects to your Cricut machine. And then you need to choose what type of cardstock you're using. It might be medium cardstock, it might be light cardstock. If you don't see those options, you may want to click browse all materials and then look for which cardstock option you plan to use. Once you choose, the default pressure is probably... A lot of my stash I got from a yard sale when someone was getting rid of all their materials. So sometimes I just have to guess, and I don't guess correctly. So you also need to have a hot glue gun for this, which is what I have here. And since I've got mine heating up, I'm going to put it over to the side and put it in its little drip pan. You may need some tweezers. I don't think at this point that you'll need a weeding tool, but just in case, you've got that and a spatula. I don't think you're going to need the scissors, but just in case, they're there. I also like to use this, and this helps to crease and roll flowers, and you'll see what I mean a little bit later as we get into this. And then these tools are actually fondant tools that I ordered, and the little balls help me get some of the shape that I like. You don't have to have these. Anything with the round end will work. But I'll show you how these how we'll use these a little bit later on. Okay, so don't want that to roll off my table there. So let's start. Oh, one of the things that I wanted to do before we started is to show you, one of the things I promised was to always show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, not everything goes according to plan. And you can see here that I did not have my paper in the right place, and it cut off of the paper. Did it more than once. I plan to salvage these. If you think about flowers that you grow in your garden, or sometimes even that you get at the florist, they're not always perfect, and sometimes there is a petal that's ripped maybe. So I plan to go ahead and use these once I get them made. If I don't like the way they look, then I may not use them in a project, but for now I plan to go ahead and make flowers using those. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with the roses. So I'm going to sort of move other things out of the way. And so we're going to work with just these roses. So here is one of the backgrounds, or one of the back layers. So what you want to do is take something that has a pretty big round end, and I just put this right in the palm of my hand, and I just kind of roll just a little bit, just to get a little bit of a divot going there. Not too much, because you don't want to crease a whole lot. And then I'm going to take my tool here, and I am just going to roll these petals backwards. Okay, So I've kind of got a nice little, you can see it's a nice little shape to it now. It's not just flat. So second layer. This time I think what I'm going to do with my second layer is I'm going to roll some of them to the front and some of them to the back. And again, the reason is just to make it look a little bit more realistic. Give it a little bit more dimension, a little bit more depth. And I'm going to take my fondant tool, my little ball there, and kind of give it a little divot. And then I'm just going to kind of place this on top and go to my third one. This time I'm going to curl all of these in, because a lot of times the innermost layer of petals hasn't totally turned out yet. And you can see here I had a little piece I didn't get weeded. That is sometimes a problem with cardstock when you don't get a sharp cut. Now you can see that I ripped the back of that paper. Not a big deal because it's going to be glued down. Alright, so that's basically how my flowers are going to look layered. So let's go ahead and start with the hot glue. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a dot of glue right there in the center. And then I'm going to press down on that second layer. Note how I made sure that my petals alternated. So I didn't put them like that. I put them at a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to do the same thing with this layer. So I put my glue right in the center. And then I press down. Alright, so you've sort of got the basic flower made. We just need to determine what kind of center we want. So maybe we will work with this center. So this is a circle, and what I want to do is make sure that each one of these pieces are totally separate, right? And then I'm going to take my smallest little circle here. Actually, it may need to be the next smallest. And I'm just going to kind of shape that around. Now that to me looks kind of small. We're just going to glue this down. I have to think about that a little bit. The tweezers, using the tweezers, you can really kind of get the exact placement. Alright, so we've got one of our roses done. So I'm just going to put that to the side. Now I'm going to work on one of our yellow flowers. So we sort of do the same process. Going to take our tool and we're going to roll this outer layer of flowers back, and then I'm going to take my fondant tool, and I'm just going to kind of get a little divot in the center. I'm going to take the lighter layer, and this time I'm going to go in. If you don't have these tools, you can use like an eraser or something like that. Alright, so those are going to layer this way. Then I think I'm going to take a couple of these and put in the center. Actually, those are too similar in color. I think I'm going to do these again because this is a little darker. So I think I'm going to do that, and then I'll do one of these. Okay, so before I get started on that, I'm going to make sure that I've got that sort of formed. This one needs to be formed too, but not as tight as what we did, I think, on the other one, because this one needs to sit in the center of it. Okay, time to glue. So we're just going to put a dot of glue in the center. Again, making sure that the petals don't cover each other up. They want to be angled. Another dot of glue. I'm going to use my tweezers. And a final dot of glue. I really like using hot glue, but I sometimes get tired of all the little hot glue hair that ends up everywhere. I have to take a minute sometimes and just clean that stuff up. Okay, so there is our yellow layered flower. And then we've got our purple. On this one, I think I'm going to try and do all of the petals toward the center. I want to see what that looks like. And this, if you're wondering exactly how I'm doing this, if you've ever curled ribbon, it's the same technique. It's the same technique. I'm just not using scissors. I'm just using that. All right. So we've got that. And this time, I think we're going to go with 2 layers of these. So I'm going to kind of just form the first one around this smallest little ball, and then maybe the second one under the next smallest. So they're slightly different sizes. And then we're going to layer. So a dot of glue. Another dot of glue, and we're going to put the one that's a little more open. Again, you probably want to use your tweezers to help you place that. Another dot of glue right in the center. And again, you want these offset just a little bit. This gets a little trickier, I think, with these. There we go. Alright, so we've got a purple one. And now all we need to do then is to layer up the rest of them.